Well, hello world. Here I am giving my video response to the story about Evan Young and his valedictorian speech that he wasn't allowed to give. I picked up the story from www.democracynow.org, which is a very good news channel. I'd recommend it to anyone. Just go there and you can actually see Evan Young giving his valedictorian speech, not in front of his school, but in front of a lot of politicians and family and friends, I think. I've got the story from Democracy Now! Here. I'll read it to you just to sort of give you a wee bit of the background. It's graduation season. Students across the country are celebrating their hard-won academic achievements, and in high school there's no greater honour than the title of class valedictorian. Traditionally, the student with the highest academic record is invited to address the graduating class at many schools, and that's exactly what Evan Young planned to do when he was named valedictorian of Twin Peaks Charter Academy High School in Longmont, Colorado. However, Evan was prevented from delivering his speech at the graduation ceremony after school officials learned he planned to announce he was gay as part of his broader message about respecting differences. In the days leading up to graduation, school principal B.J. Bookman reportedly instructed Young to omit the disclosure. When Evan refused, the principal called the student's father and prematurely outed Evan to his dad. Then the school prevented Evan from addressing his class and also did not recognise him as class valedictorian at his May the 16th graduation ceremony. Evan Young is a graduating senior with a 4.5 grade point average and a scholarship awaiting him at Rutgers University. So there you go. Now, in its response, the school's lawyers said that they hadn't actually prevented Evan from giving his speech because he was gay, but because his speech made a mockery of the institution and contained material of a sexual nature. They didn't feel that it was appropriate to talk about coming out at a graduation speech, really. Those of you who have actually seen his speech will actually just think, oh gosh, it's just an ordinary teenager giving a speech about school, not liking homework and not liking reading books and that sort of thing, and just full of in-jokes and that sort of thing. There's nothing really untoward about it at all. He did come out as gay in the speech, but it was in the context of mutual respect and people respecting differences and that sort of thing. Nothing there that was untoward at all. The school did ask him to make some edits. They thought that some jokes might have upset people that actually Evan liked, and so he took those bits out. He refused to take out the bit about coming out as gay because now you see, this is where I get a little just slightly in two minds, really. I don't really believe that a school speech to the general public is the way that I would have come out. But then again, I don't live in his shoes, and I think that's the whole point, really. Coming out is probably one of the most daunting things that a person can ever do. There's a huge amount of emotional expense going on here, huge amount of risk going on, risk of parents not taking it in the right way, parents throwing their kids out, which happens, parents being violent towards their children, which happens, and then the sense of shame. And even, although I think in the US, there are a lot of these ex-gay Christian ministries that like to essentially pray away the gay, which doesn't really happen, and all it does is reinforce a sense of inner fear and shame and self-hatred, really. And I've heard about, you know, some of these places actually even doing mock funerals for like the old gay person and that sort of thing. And you know, it's just it's barbaric. It's really not right. And so, you know, for the school to say, oh, it's not an appropriate moment. Well, when is the appropriate moment? I think, you know, any parent that hears their child come out to them, and any child that comes out to a parent, there never is an appropriate moment. You know, it just is what it is. It just happens. And you know, he obviously had his reasons for wanting to come out at a speech. My one would be probably for the same reason that, you know, sometimes sending, you know, an awkward call as a text message is, you know, sometimes easier than making a phone call, because you can rehearse it, you can write it down, you can then deliver that message. There's a little bit of a kind of bit of breathing space between the message being sent and the message being replied to, and the same in a speech. You know, you've got that amount of breathing space. You're not in a confined room, you know, your living room, whatever, and you know, perhaps what you plan to say going wrong, and you know, and making, you know, perhaps, you know, a huge big deal about it. He probably didn't sleep for weeks before giving that speech, you know, just for that one little thing that was in it. You know, the rest of it was, you know, just ordinary teenagers, you know, making, you know, vaguely funny speeches, you know, with in jokes and stuff in there. So yeah, I just think that, you know, the school made too much fuss about it. But what I find, and what I didn't really see coming out in any of the support for Evan Young, really, you know, Amy Goodman in her interview with him didn't really, I suppose, hit the nail on the head. But the thing that school did to Evan Young was out him prematurely to his dad. And that is brutal. That is absolutely brutal, given the kind of risks that I've, you know, tried to explain. You know, it doesn't quite sound the same in a couple of minutes of talking about it, but, you know, given those kind of risks that happened to him, and the huge amount of emotional drama going on inside the child, outing him to his dad was just really brutal, really dangerous, in fact. And if, you know, if you know, as you know, maybe if I'd been a head teacher and I'd done that to a person, I would then have to take full responsibility for what happened afterwards. And, you know, that could have been awful. That really could have been awful. You know, we still in 2015 live in a world where people should have to come out. They shouldn't have to, really. You know, people's sexual orientation is their own business, and it's, you know, it's really no business, you know, apart from, you know, the person, really. And it's just so sort of doesn't matter. But you go to Russia, you go to Uganda and Nigeria, and, you know, hundreds of places across the globe, or subscribe to, you know, just about any religious faith, and you will find that the amount of opposition you will get, and the amount of denial of your humanity. This is the point. This is the point. You know, a thump in the street, you know, is so sort of, you know, what's the word I'm after? Kind of debilitating, I suppose, to your self-esteem. Not being allowed to perhaps marry, not being allowed to even take communion, and yeah, as a gay person, is denial of that person's spirituality. It isn't denial of a marriage. It isn't denial of a communion. It's denial of your spirituality. It's flattening a person into some sort of 2D thing that does not have a spiritual side. And human beings do have a spiritual side. It's, you know, and in fact, actually, you know, to deny that person's spiritual side is to deny their humanity. And this is what coming out still is in this day and age. I think that Evan Young should have been encouraged. I think he should have been offered support, moral support, with perhaps coming out to his parents, because that was the implication of it. That was the implication of it. I wouldn't have run the kid's dad. I would have said to him, look, do you want your mum and dad to come in and, you know, and you know, and do this, you know, and then you can come and talk to us about it afterwards, or whatever, you know, and you know, just offered that kind of counselling and support. Really, you know, the school must have had some sort of welfare kind of thing on its campus, and you know, I just think that, you know, the whole thing went wrong. From what I hear, the parents are okay with him being gay. They're certainly supporting him in sort of his sort of I don't know what the word is I'm after now. There's another one I lost. Sorry, I do get a little bit kind of tongue-tied when I do these videos. But yeah, I think, yeah, they've certainly supported the kind of media coverage that it's had, and so, you know, in this case, it didn't backfire, but it could so easily have backfired. You don't know beforehand whether or not it's going to backfire, and that school should be sort of have its head on the block for outing someone to their dad. Okay, a speech is a speech. Okay, yes, there was an awful lot of emotion and it's sort of invested into it, but you know, a speech is a speech. What they did to him in terms of prematurely outing him was just unforgivable, and they should certainly be torn to shreds for it. And that is, I actually sent an email to the school. I don't know whether or not they'll ever get it or read it or whatever, but you know, it's just another thing in their inbox. And you know, support for you, Evan, from halfway across the globe in the United Kingdom, and wish you all the best, and sorry that happened to you, mate. Okay, bye.